Yeah, we're going to invite
Yes.
our presenters, all of our presenters, up to the stage right now. We promised you a quick Q&A. We got a couple of questions that were put in the red box, thanks to the Red Hat ladies, and we're going to also ask anybody that didn't get a chance for the couple of speakers this afternoon to ask any questions, and then we'll just do a real quick wrap with John and get out of here. So come on up, people. You can give them some love as they walk up to the stage. That awkward moment as we're all coming up here. So, all right, Dale, you have the mic, so
I do.
We'll start with you. The question, this is from Frank in Canada. Are there any items that should not go on a bucket list?
Any items that should not go on a bucket list? Interesting. I would say those selfies that are super dangerous. You know, people are trying to take these selfies now and they're falling off cliffs and stuff like that. You could do Photoshop, okay? Like, you could get close. I did take a picture hanging off the edge, but it was the angle of the camera. I really wasn't in any danger. I got into a lot of trouble for that picture, but it was perfectly safe. So the one thing that people don't understand, and sometimes I get to explain it, is you can actually take things off of your list. So as your dreams and desires change, you have to remember it is your list. So you have the options for that. So thank you.
So a bucket list can be goals, it can be personal achievements, a place we want to go, anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that to go along with a bucket list, it would be helpful to have a vision board. So we can
Yes.
see it.
Vision board is very, very, powerful.
Okay, cool. Next up, John.
Yes.
This is from Sharon in New Mexico.
Hi, Sharon in New Mexico.
Does the happiness graph, she must be a mom, does the happiness graph work for teenagers and kids?
Very interesting question. It does. However, we have to understand that a lot of the categories are not as pertinent. For example, sometimes they're going to rate things that are a little off scale. Money and environment maybe not be as pertinent, but they are. The reason the happiness graph works is because it's what comes to your mind at the time. So even though we know that our teenagers don't really have money problems, if they perceive that they do, that's a big indicator of something that you as a parent get to look at and maybe work through with your child. They may see things that we think are not really a big deal, but to them they are. So I think it is very valuable to go through with them as well.
And I have a question that goes along with that. I'm assuming with teenagers during that age where they're indecisive, they want to fit in with society, their answers may vary, or they may give answers to try to fit in with the crowd. And I'm assuming we may have to use the graph more often because sometimes, hopefully, as adults, we don't change our minds as often as we do when we're going through adolescence and the teenage stage.
You would be surprised how often adults have to redo it, because the thing about the graph, too, that I find very interesting, and the reason why it works the way that it works is I use it for decision making because we tend to focus on one category, and we make a decision based on one category, but that one decision affects all 5 aspects of our lives. So any change in your life is going to completely change all the other things as well. So we would think that adults don't have to do it as often, but quite frankly, we do.
Okay. Let's go. Cheryl, you have the mic. Okay. Question here for Cheryl. What suggestions would you give to someone who wants to get involved with a nonprofit? So I'm assuming maybe your stories with the pet adoptions, getting started, and that sort of thing. Do you have any experience in that area? Can you give any insights?
Sure. So if you want to get started with a nonprofit, I would say the first thing is to think about what would you do if you didn't need money. Because volunteering is really something that you're getting paid in love and emotions and warm fuzzies. So, like I said before, you know, if it's not animals, like what really matters to you? For Dustin, it was the spinal cord injuries and helping other people like him. I know a lot of people that volunteer with children, and just kind of figuring out what population or what creature you want to help, and either going to, like I did, going to festivals and just learning to kind of talk to people and meet different people. There are a lot of challenges in nonprofits, so you want to find the one that feels like home.
And it is a process. You have
Oh,
to go
yeah.
through a lot of government paperwork and forms and show proof and that sort of thing.
Oh, if you want to start a nonprofit, don't.
Okay.
No, there is. It's starting a business, and most people are doing it on top of their normal lives, their normal jobs, their normal families. So. Yeah.
There you go. Or buy some
Subway.
buy some Subway shops. Okay. All right, Rockin' Rhonda. You got an amazing story, and I'm sure there have been ups and downs and failures. But when it comes to your successes, like the book cover, how many do-overs? How many times did you present the book cover until they said, that's the one we want? Was it the first time? Did you have to go back to the drawing board several times? What was that experience like?
Well, actually, I was working with 2 law of attraction coaches in California, and they had done the collaboration, or they were working on the collaboration with Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield. And of course, they have their own design team. And so the coaches that I was working for asked if I could provide some direction, some samples. And they kind of waited and went, okay. And I sent in about 4 or 5 different concepts, and they went with one and gave me permission to do the cover.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what about with your TEDx talk? How much blood, sweat, and tears went into that? Did you have to get coaching? Did you have people help you write your speech? Was it practice and rehearse, or did you just get out there and wham?
Yes. It was a combination of a lot, and I really had no aspirations to be a speaker, let alone a TEDx speaker, because I had this immense fear of speaking on stage. And I, through a friend who facilitates a training, a speaker training, dynamic speaker training, I'll give them a plug. And it was through their techniques and tools and all the great things that took place in those 3 days that actually allowed me to get rid of my fear of speaking. And I call it divine intervention, but on the last day of the training, I received an email on my phone as I was waiting for the 3rd day to begin, that they were doing auditions for TEDx. So I just decided I saw that as a sign. And I auditioned, I studied, TEDx videos and books, and yes, I did have coaches that helped, and it was an amazing experience.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Raquel, right? When did you first realize that you had a gift? We all sing in the shower. We all, like, when we're happy kids singing around and stuff. When did you first realize, because, you got people, oh, you're really good. But when did you realize that, wow, I really do have a gift and I need to do something with it?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. I'll keep it as short as possible. Both of my parents are singers, and they decided that one of their 3 children was going to be a singer. They did not pick me. And so we actually they just encouraged my other sister, and she was the singer. So it wasn't until I got to my first youth choir rehearsal where they sang more adult songs. The youth choir director was trying to get me to sing, and as I sang out, he was like, stop, do that again. And that was the moment where I realized that I was a singer.
Cool. Any questions from the audience? Are we striking anything? Does anybody have anything on their mind? I know it's been a long day, but it's been a fast pace and great moving day. Anybody have any questions from the audience?
Well, I didn't realize that I could change my story until my life was on the line, quite honestly. And it was just, I was a single mom of 2, and you know, common sense just snapped in, and just, you know, reality just literally grabbed hold of me, and I knew that I could no longer live that kind of life. I mean, I could have stayed a victim, you know, of abuse, and I could have stayed a single mom on government assistance trying to make ends meet, a drug addict. I also could have been dead at 34. So I made the conscious decision to completely change my life. And I did.
And got
Thank you.
unstuck. Anybody else? All right. Yes. And that is for.
So that's Frank and I guess. You want to tackle it first, and then I'll.
Yeah, I think a lot of the speakers, Darren and others, just referred to you know, the gift. I mean, it's what illuminates growth. It's what facilitates power. It's what makes people go inward and it's being forced to get your way out of something, or to get what you really want. So I think that's John's phrase, by the way. I don't want to take credit for it. He's proud of that one. It's a good phrase. So.
For me, it's literally the things in our lives that bring pain are usually the same things that bring about change, and they bring about a positive a lot of times. So for me, it's really tapping into that source of the pain that allows me to appreciate things and move from it. So I did a video that I just reposted the other day about scheduling your pain, which is a concept that people think is crazy, but I found for me that every once in a while I will put it on my calendar to go feel bad, which sounds weird, but the reality of it is that there are certain things in my life that I do not want to get over. So people are like, get over. I don't want to get over my daughter, okay? But I don't want to be stuck in it also. So how do you take something that has been hurtful or painful in your life, internalize it so that you can stay connected? Because it's that connectivity that really drives us forward and drives a lot of the change. So for me, what I do is and honestly, yesterday, I was sitting in a Starbucks, because that's where I almost always sit. I'm sitting in a Starbucks, and I'm looking over my presentation. And I can tell you that there are times when I would practice my presentation, when I come across the slide of Abby and I kissing, a lot of times I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll say this, I'll say this, I'll say this. And I haven't looked at it in a couple weeks. And so when I did it yesterday, and I just stopped, and it sort of brought a tear to my eye. And I'm like, wow, you know, there's a connectivity to this story that I do not ever want to lose. So shortly after she passed, 2 days after she passed, I took 100 and some pictures, put it to the music that we had in the hospital, and I made a video of it. And last night before I went to bed, I watched that video. And as hurtful as that might be, it recharges me, and it gives me an energy, and it gives me a passion to drive forward. So it's a privilege in my life to have that pain, because it gives me something, gives me that energy to go forward. So when I schedule it, the good thing about scheduling pain, I go to a park, I sit, I intend to feel bad, but I almost never do, because I know why I'm going there. But I know that when I leave the park, I leave the pain, and I can use the positive from it. And I know that it'll always be back there. I can always go back. But I don't have to carry around it with me all the time.
Yeah, I think, can I just add really quick? It is right. If you look at history, like we're in this golden age of positive, happy people, smiling faces, Facebook, this, that. But the truth is, like I said, pain has been one of the probably the greatest teacher in history. And a lot of people have been motivated by, whether it's Napoleon, whether people saying you can't, like, I'll be honest, for me, probably the first 30-some years of my life, we hit levels in our life where our motivations change. Your motivations can change year to year. You hit levels. My motivation just was people looking at me and sizing me up the moment they met me. He won't do this. He can't do this. he's not a good journalist, he's not a good writer, I'll be honest, that would just set me on fire. That was like, so now a lot of people would say, that's low vibration, that's anger, that's bad. Well, I can show you a lot of angry people that did incredible things. I can show you people, as much as it's positive, happy. Happy doesn't motivate everybody. I mean, it's great to get there. But on the way there, I can show you a lot of angry people that do great things. I can show you a lot of hurting people that do that do great things. The fire can be different. His fire was hurt. It wasn't happy. It was hurt. Hurt put that fire in him, you know. So that's the spark for a lot of people. For me, it was anger. Now it's not anger, but it was anger, but I still got a lot done. I got a pretty good resume for a guy who was pretty angry for like 30-some years and driven off. Oh, you say I can't do that, right? I can see it in their eyes. And that used to motivate me a lot. So it's different for everybody.
But it's not staying in that hurt or anger.
Yeah.
That's
No,
what
yeah,
motivates you to move from it. So.
Yeah, but there's levels. I mean, some people, John, aren't ready to go. They're not ready. If they're here, they're not ready to hit, golden. It's a process to get them there.
Cool. And final question, Darren LaCroix. What is your one habit that you do each day to shift your mindset? You are Mr. Mindset. Can we edit that from the tape, please? Thank you.
I have a soundtrack.
What is your one habit?
I have a soundtrack that plays in the background. So
Yeah.
I like it.
no, I mean my one habit is every morning I have faith and feel challenged at times, but I really try to, before I open my email, I try to have breakfast, go for a walk, read some from the Bible, reflect on that, and pray.
Fill your happy cup.
Fill my happy cup. That's it.
Okay. Well, one more time, let's start
You have
beating
a
on
question?
the... Oh, we got a question? Okay. Yes. Sorry, we're out of time. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, the-
Mm-hmm. Then take your second step. Right. For me, it was just finding that encouraging people to surround myself with and shut off my high school buddies and my family who are well-intentioned. So I think it's who's that people who are going to give you that momentum and keep you going. It's almost like they're cheerleaders. So sometimes some of my mentors were more the cheerleader and some of my mentors are more no, shut up and do that. So you kind of need both, I think. But my story doesn't nearly compare like the amazing Rhonda, RhondaRocks.com. How did she keep going? That's what I want to know.
Okay, Rhonda, go ahead.
Well, for me, I feel like once I gave myself permission that it was okay to always be able to rewrite my story, regardless of what it looked like, I always was able to make the choice to rewrite it. So, and to be honest, I'm still rewriting my story. I had one hell of a week. And I woke up this morning going, oh my God, I am rewriting my story again. And it's all good. And so I meditate too, but I also surround myself with people who hold me up to a higher level, especially when I don't feel it myself. And to me, that's key.
If I could jump on that too, find your way to celebrate, like your way. Nobody else's, get ideas from people, but find your way. And when I was so 2 things. Prepare for that that challenge where I would sit outside the comedy clubs. Now, I have no talent, no material, no stage presence, nothing. And I would sit outside of a comedy club and I would play my 3 power songs. And in the old days, it was like Van Halen's Right Now. Like, all that matters is right now. So before I would go in, I would sit in my little 1976 brown VW Rabbit and listen to that cassette. Cheryl, a cassette is... So that's number one, preparing for like that challenge. Find your power songs and listen just before you engage. And then just number 2, when I was getting $25 a set and $50 a comedy set, what I did is I loved music and CDs. And since I had no money, I was living home with my parents, I told myself whenever I got paid, I would buy myself a single CD. And so even when I got a $1,000 check, I would buy 1 CD. I got a $50 check, I would buy 1 CD. But those CDs meant so much to me. And when I listened to them, it re-engaged me. So that's just one idea.
Frank.
Just really quick. So I was a journalist. I've been a writer for 20 years. This is not new to me. I was doing this before, this is what I do. I tell people stories. I'm now telling my own. I just spent 20 years telling other people's stories. Now it's time to tell my story. But so as a journalist, I would go into people's homes. I'd knock on their door. I don't know these people from Adam, and I'd say, your son died, your daughter died. Will you tell me about it? And a lot of people view you as a vulture. You're a journalist. You're an opportunist. You want to sell newspapers off of them. But I heard, I've done this thousands of times. Like I always knew there's a story in everybody. I'm out there in the trenches. And I would say, so that actually strengthens me too, because I would see all these people in very bad positions. I've seen every kind of story, every kind of person. I've talked to them. I've interviewed them. So for me, I draw strength from them. I draw strength from that. And second thing, though, is when all else fails, and I'm not a religious guy, but I am a person that believes in God. I don't like to say it a lot on stage. I won't say it a lot, but I'll say it here. And later in my career, I won't say it a whole lot. But at the end of the day, when I don't know my lines, right now I'm a young speaker. I don't know. I sit there, I cram, I prepare like a maniac. We all do. I'm sure we all prepare like maniacs. But I'm a perfectionist, so I'm not happy with any material. So the night before, I'm literally up at 1 a.m. I'm changing stuff. I changed the conclusion today at 12:20 p.m. before a 1 p.m. speech. That's me. When all else fails, I've been through so much of my life. I vicariously lived through other people's story. I just say, work through me. And that makes me feel at ease. And for people who don't believe, I don't know how they get, I'm being serious here. People who don't believe in a higher power, whatever your higher power notion is, I don't know how you get out of the hardest place. If it's on you and you got you there, I don't know how you get out of there. So that's what I feel works through me. It's an incredible feeling. It's an incredible surge. And at the end of the day, no matter what's in front of me, that's got my back. And I feel pretty good about that. So,
Frank, that's what a happy fighter looks like, by the way. Smile and tell them all you're happy. He's a fighter, so sometimes I can tell you, for me, putting on events like this has been a challenge at times. And when I first started, I started with my discovery course. So I had the Finding Your Happiness book, and then a discovery course. I did it as a meetup. And then I thought, I'm ready to put on a seminar. So I put it out there on Facebook and Meetup, and I went and got a room, and I had 30-some people said they were coming, 4 people prepaid for the seminar, and I got there, and when I set up the room, 1 person showed up. And it was a woman I'd met a couple weeks before that at church. And I paced for about a half an hour, and she finally looked at me, and she's like, are we going to do this or what? And I'm like, you mean you still want to? She's like, well, I paid. I'm like, great. So here I am doing a happiness seminar, and I'm ticked. To be honest, I'm mad because nobody showed up to this happiness seminar except for 1 person. And I'm like, I'm expecting a room full of people. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? So,
John, I just gave you another story.
Thank you.
Ha, 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 ha.
I have a lot of gods in my life, apparently. So the thing about it is I sat down next to her, we ordered breakfast, and we flipped through this workbook that I had. And the whole time it's just going through my head like, oh, this is stupid, I'm never doing this again. Like, Why would I do this? You know, nobody showed up. Nobody cares. So about a month and a half later, I walk into a church event, and from the back, probably the back wall, I see this woman, and she comes running at me, throws her arms around me, and starts telling me that sitting with me, going through that workbook, inspired her to start her own business. And I didn't know what to say. And I decided from that moment on, if there is one person in the audience, then that's the person that was meant to hear the message. And so that's why I have to keep going no matter what, because somebody out there needs that inspiration.
I told you. You just needed to have faith and give me a little time.
I need to get Mark Brown to record that for me.
All right, Raquel.
Thank you. I would say my answer to that is determining what your vision is. Because what stuck for you might actually be my freedom. When I first got out of the cult, I had never had a license, and so I was in Utah, and I went through a whole winter riding the bus and walking wherever I went. Hated it, don't like to be cold. And so I got my car, and it was a $5,000 Honda Civic, and I was so happy to have this car. And I would go to the window every night and just hit the clicker, just like I had a car. And I told somebody about my car, and she told me about like all the things she required on a car, and her cars had to be like $40,000. I was so happy with my $5,000 car. And so knowing what your vision is, whatever it is going to help you, because then you'll be able to ask yourself, the question that I ask myself is this it? Is this where I'm going? Is this who I'm wanting to be? And I do that regular check-in. And then as Darren said, I keep great people around me, great information around me, books. I'm on TED all the time. Whatever I can do just to keep things in my orbit. But I have great people with integrity. They'll tell me when I'm off track. They'll tell me when I'm wrong. So your connections, but also being aware of what it is that you actually want.
Cheryl.
So I actually use a regret test. A couple of years ago, I was actually up in Moab, and I was with my friend and his dad, and we had hiked almost to the top of this peak, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was not in good shape, and I was just ready to quit, literally like 5 feet from the end. And his dad said to me, if you don't do this, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And I did do it, and he was right. It was the most amazing view, and I would have regretted it. So any time that I'm stuck or depressed or whatever, and I don't know, if I can do the next step, I always just have to wonder, am I going to regret it if I don't? And one more really quick story, sorry. When I was 15-ish, I was in chorus, and we did this combination with another school. And there was this guy, Alex Birnbaum. I had the biggest crush on him for like a week. But I was so shy, and I never said anything. And it is 20 years later, and I still remember this guy's name. It's not one of my biggest regrets, but it's one of those things that kind of sticks in the craw, I should have done it. So yeah.
Facebook stalking?
I never even looked. Maybe it wasn't.
That's your assignment when you get home. Go look
right?
him up.
Guys, I gotta go. Excuse me. So yeah, I just think am I gonna regret it? And if I am, then my next step is I kind of made a promise to myself that if I'm afraid of something, it means I have to do it. So.
Kind of like the Michael Jordan quote: "The shot you miss is the shot you never take." All right, Dale.
Okay, for me, with the bucket list, it can be as simple as one step. I got invited, hey, you want to go shoot machine guns? I've never done that before. That sounds cool. Let's go do that. You're like, oh, man, it was so cool.
How does it go?
Yeah, and you're like shaking. It's awesome. Okay, so also I had one of my coaches is like, hey, I got the hypnosis certification coming up, and that would be great. You'd be able to help people on a deep level. And I'm like, man, that sounds awesome. I want to put that on my bucket list. So that was a single step too. But to be on stage and to be speaking, that took a lot of thought. And I said, all right, I want to do that. And there's no check for maybe or almost. So I have to keep step after step after step, and stage time after stage time after stage time, and perfect it, and keep working. Surround yourself. It's step after step to get that check.
All right, one more time. Let's give it up for all our presenters. We got Dancing Dale, Jammin' John, Shakin' Cheryl, Rockin' Rhonda, Raquel, Daring Darren, and Fascist Frank. All right. I have to also say you guys have been the best crowd I've had today, so I thank you for your attention and giving me a little energy. Just for a couple thank yous, we're just going to have John say a couple quick thank yous, and then the speakers will be hanging out in the back if you got any more questions. So thank you, and John, it's all you.
Thanks. I just hope that you guys got value out of today, that it was enjoyable. If so, just tell your friends about it. The goal for this is to do one a month in a different city, eventually do them in all 50 states. So if we have this in your hometown, would you tell people to come? So for the rest of the time, we have the room for like another 30 minutes or so. We're just going to throw on some music and let you walk on water if you want. And we'll all be around if you guys have any questions you want to talk.